I want to know if Anathema really likes me or really likes June, because the last couple of albums that they've released have all come right around my birthday, and this is no different. Here it is, 2017, 3 years removed since the last time we talked about them, and we have The Optimist. And The Optimist has a bit of history behind it of its own. This is sort of a continuation of their album A Fine Day to Exit, which was a disc that certainly, if it did one thing, it signaled a transformation of this band into the progressive universe as a full-fledged member, as opposed to just one who just sort of, you know, subsidized a curiosity every so often and quenched their thirst. This is a band that over the past 15 to nearly 20 years, ever since that album has been released, God, it's been a long time, I'm old, has just really found their niche. They found a great and terrific voice that has become uniquely their own, and it really is another one of those stories of a group that started off as something completely different and morphed into something perhaps even greater than what they started as. And other bands that perhaps could be placed in that bracket would be groups such as Catatonia and Paradise Lost, although Paradise Lost seems to have found some of their old snarl. But with The Optimist, this disc is following the self-titled Optimist character after A Fine Day to Exit, because after he disappeared, nobody really knows what happened to him. That was something that was stated by the band themselves, which really caused the narrative of this story to come about. And the very first track that you get off of this album, which is just the sound of rustling waves, is actually coordinates to a beach that is over in California, near the San Diego area, I want to say, but I might be wrong on that. But then you get into Leaving It Behind and then Endless Ways, and you start to notice that we have a narrative that is being handled more so by Vincent, and then the bulk of some of what you hear on this album vocally is handled by Lee, which is the female vocalist that this band boasts. And it's one that is shown by some tremendous vocals on Endless Ways, and then going into the title track, The Optimist. But then whenever you get into tracks such as San Francisco and Springfield and Ghosts, the amount of vocals and the amount of lyricism that you get really becomes a little bit more minimalized in favor of really letting the music sort of do its job, really allowing this band, which is now sort of morphing into prog post-rock a little bit here and there, with perhaps some signs of shoegazing in the midst, has really just found a way to let their sort of airy atmospheres showcase the idea of just being in different places, being displaced, being sort of, sort of aloof from yourself and aloof from the world. And this is definitely very dreamy in some spots, and it really matches up with the album cover very nicely, which itself is a bit of a weird continuation of the A Fine Day to Exit album cover by itself. So really the whole thing is just a beautifully painted sequel. But whenever you get a little bit later on into this album, whenever you get into tracks such as Close Your Eyes and Wildfires, you start to wonder what has really the fate that has beheld The Optimist, what has happened in this situation. And it seems like there have been some things that have been embraced that has caused some real I guess, changes to the life of the Optimists, and perhaps for a positive. Perhaps there has been a travel companion all of this time, and we'll get to that in just a second. Just a lot of things here are being sort of noted, and whenever you hear tracks with titles such as Close Your Eyes, you immediately think the worst, but perhaps whenever you hear sort of the softness of this music, you can actually filter the best sometimes. A lot of these songs begin with a piano with a little bit of a soft guitar. They will ramp up into a little bit more of that progressive metal stance, which is very seldom for Anathema these days, really hovering more toward the alternative / progressive rock identity that they have held for quite a while now. Everything does have a very sort of beautiful feel to it. It's not something that feels like it's trying to be overtly aggressive with you. And then whenever you get back to the start, we're back to Vincent being the sole proprietor of vocals, and it's reminding you a little bit of that album from 2001. It's reminding you once again of A Fine Day to Exit, almost as though this is being served as the perfect finale piece to literally go back to the start, sort of do that perfect loop and close the circle. And at the end of this, after a couple of minutes of silence, we get a hidden track which boasts something that we perhaps may not have expected from this story. We hear a child's laughter, which could perhaps indicate that the Optimist has indeed sired a son or has birthed a daughter. It is certainly cool. It could potentially have absolutely nothing to do with it and just be one of the band members playing with their kids. But I like to think that this is sort of an optimal or an optimistic ending for a character known as the Optimist. I don't want that to literally be just some sort of cruel irony for a name. I would rather it be somebody who took control and based off of that has been able to really have a command over their future. This is an album that has a lot of great qualities to it. I think the softness at times is its beautiful, beautiful strength because it does deliver a lot of great feeling and emotion, and Anathema has gotten very good at that. Take a look at some of their previous albums, such as Weather Systems, to really showcase that very well. And I also like the fact that they do offset that with a little bit of that sort of post-rock slash shoegazing style riffing. It gives it an extra piece of charm while also kind of showcasing mood shifts, either that or shifts in life. It's a very apt driving piece of music. It's something that's going to keep you in control while also delivering you a very solid experience. The only negatives that I see with this album is that at times the formula can get a bit predictable, and at times the songs may not feel like they are necessarily the strongest in Anathema's catalog. But whenever we really sort of dial back into it, that's not really all that bad of a negative. It just shows that they were engrossed with, you know, sort of celebrating and also exploring the post-life of this character after a fine day to exit, and were able to build a narrative that doesn't necessarily need the music to 100% be the strength. It also can have sort of its light lyricism, but strong singing, strong sense of identity be its guide, and that's what is the real strength, despite what I claim as weakness. Very confusing, I know. This is an album as a 22 out of 30. There is a lot of great things being done here. I think that this is a fitting follow-up to what we got with the Optimist's original life in A Fine Day to Exit. So I want to know what you think about that life. Let me know what you think about The Optimist by Anathema. Did you think this was worth it? Did it let you down? Let me know in the comments below. I am Coverkillernation, and I will speak to you guys next time. Perhaps optimistically, perhaps pessimistically, perhaps I will speak well in the next video. That'll be my goal. Take care.